Happy Valentine's Day! Yes, friends, what's poppin'? Welcome back to the channel Football Therapy with me, your host, Jan. I hope you're doing well, mate. Genuinely do hope that. Welcome back to Chelsea News. Of course, the daily series here on the channel where I reflect on what's being said about Chelsea, giving you my opinion on it for whatever that is worth. More importantly, as always, asking for yours. Today, everyone's talking about Conor Gallagher. There is an article written by Sammy Mockbill. Matt Law's written about it yesterday. It's a big talking point. It's a huge discussion currently, of course, him scoring the two vital goals away at Crystal Palace. But still, what's going on with the contract? Well, we'll get a little bit of insight, hopefully, there. Also, Antonio Conte spoken about Chelsea in an exclusive with The Telegraph, with the aforementioned Matt Law. Pretty interesting. He references Chelsea in his discussion. And I do want to spend a little bit of time talking about Raheem Sterling. John Cross wrote an article about him, how Chelsea fans shouldn't be booing him. I do want to talk about it a little bit. Of course, he is our highest earner. I have spoken about it a bit recently, but I want to spend a bit more time on it, mate. So thank you for joining me. It is the day of love. If you want to show some love, you're welcome to, simply by dropping a like on the video. I always do the click sound, but, you know, I think like 65% or more watch my videos on mobile devices. So a thumb tap sound on the screen, whatever that is. Either way, thank you for liking and subscribing to Football Therapy, and I welcome your comments all the time. Alright then, let's get into it. So let's start off with Conor Gallagher. I'm not going to read any specifics from these articles from the Mail or the Telegraph, but I am going to talk about the subject matter that's in both. Conor Gallagher will have 12 months left on his contract in the summer, and Tottenham intend on making a move for him should he not have extended with Chelsea by then. Of course, the Tottenham manager Ange Postecoglou is reportedly a fan of Conor, and it kind of makes sense. It kind of marries up that kind of hectic, high-line, super pressy style of football. I could see why Conor Gallagher would be a really useful asset in that midfield, though personally, I do see him playing in the double pivot. He's not a front three player, and should Maddison be fit for Tottenham, I don't think Andrew would want to give up that sort of creativity, those sort of key passes. Look, Conor Gallagher's got an assist in him and stuff, but he's useful as an all-rounder, and his superpower, as it were, was high turnovers. So personally, I think Tottenham push up really, really high generally as a team. I think he'd play in the sort of double pivot, and he'd be trying to win the ball back a lot there as well. That's just my personal speculation on how he'd play as a Tottenham player, but all the news are saying, and multiple publications are saying, that Tottenham will go in for him this summer. How much will Chelsea ask for him? Well, in Matt Law's article, apparently a sporting director that's not working for Chelsea or Tottenham would value Gallagher at around 30 or 35 million pounds in the summer, which Chelsea would probably value him for more. I think we accepted a 45 million pound bid for him previously, but he didn't want to go. That's possibly Everton, I can't remember exactly. And of course, since he's played really, really well for Chelsea, he's worn the captain's armband for Chelsea, Chelsea will use all of this as a reason to crank up his transfer fee, regardless of him only having a year left on his deal. But the truth is, he will only have a year left on his deal, and this sporting director that spoke to Matt Law of The Telegraph explains that though Conor Gallagher right now isn't getting paid £150,000 per week, that is his general value for a Premier League club. And many Chelsea fans at this point will be screaming like, and why don't we give him that? Why don't we give him that money? Maybe Chelsea are undecided. We'll speak about that in a moment. But other top Premier League clubs, the clubs that he'd probably agree to go to, the clubs that have got the money to spend on him, they would have to give him that wage because he's an England international. He always gets called up by Gareth Southgate for England. He's still very young. He's always available. The best ability is availability, never injured. He's 150 grand worth of player. For a club that wants him and utilises him and has got the vision for him, he's worth 150k a week. Is that Chelsea though? That's a bummer for Chelsea because the sporting director in this article explains, yes, you're not paying him that, but you're selling that as an asset. So the buying club, they're not buying a player that will take 70k a week. They're buying a player that they're going to have to pay 150k a week. So it becomes more difficult for them, and maybe in terms of the, here it comes, amortization of that deal over the 5 years. So they sign him, they will want it a smaller transfer fee because there's bigger wages. Tricky, 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 tricky. Now this is super tough. It's a philosophical question. I want to keep Conor Gallagher, and I probably would pay him 150k a week. I know we've got a salary cap now, but I think a couple of the young players are on 150k. It's really, really tricky. Chelsea are tempted, of course, by the notion of pure profit, and I have on good authority Chelsea need to make a couple of sales to be in the green in terms of profit and sustainability rules. But they feel comfortable in being able to do that. Of course, we've got many assets to sell, many pure profit assets to sell. We've got 30 million coming from Hall, Mutson. You can, as things stand, you'd put the farm on Ian Mutson's £35 million buyout clause being activated and triggered, probably by Dortmund. On top of the £2 million loan fees, that's £37 million for Mutson, and probably, unfortunately, Broja's probably going to be sold, probably much less than what Chelsea originally wanted, but still, it's pure profit. Let's just say Broja goes for 25 million quid. That's already well over 100, is it well over? That's 100 million anyway, so Chelsea will be probably in the green. They don't need to sell Conor Gallagher unless a big bid comes in. But say 12 months left and he doesn't re-sign a new deal, 40 million quid. He'll probably sell Conor Gallagher in the summer, and probably to Tottenham. But will he go? One thing we know about Conor Gallagher is he's a proper Chelsea fan. He loves Chelsea. His whole family are Chelsea fans. How would they feel about him going to Tottenham? Well, let's be realistic about this. Your career comes first, and although you have allegiances and, teams you support, ultimately, you've got to look after your family, and if you have an opportunity to sign a long-term deal on hundreds of thousands of pounds, you can respectfully leave one club for another. That's just the way it is, to be honest. It is. Declan Rice is a Chelsea fan, family of Chelsea fans. Jody Morris recently confirmed he is a Chelsea fan. He's playing for Arsenal currently. Plenty of examples, actually. Tammy Abraham's an Arsenal fan, went through the Chelsea Academy. Anyway, let's not get into the weeds of that. Should Chelsea bite the bullet, give him... Because there's two things to consider. Wage amount and contract length. Chelsea will want to put him on a minimum 7-year deal. So 7+1, essentially. That's what they'll want to do. And if he signs that, he's signing his whole career up to Chelsea. Now, if he's a Chelsea fan, he might be wicked. But then again, what if he thinks, I don't like that. What if in 2 years I'm absolutely killing it and go somewhere else for loads of money? I've got huge ambition. There's no reason I can get better and better and better. And I can be on crazy wages somewhere. So players have to think about that as well. I don't know the ins and outs of Conor Gallagher's contract negotiations. I'm not actually sure how many there's been. Of course, there's informal conversations between the club and representatives before everyone actually sits down, or at least I imagine that's how it works. I do wonder, and again I'm reiterating stuff I've spoken about recently, I do wonder if Chelsea long-term are looking at Conor Gallagher as this really useful individual player and thinking, systemically, is he the answer to our midfield build long-term? And he might be, but he's not an obvious solution. Okay, you have a CDM player here, you have a technical player there, this, that, and the other. Conor's kind of unique. He's this kind of just hard-working, counter-pressing player. But at the end, if he scores more goals, this is what I said recently, if he scores a handful of more goals, his position we'll have to give him a contract because the optics will get worse and worse and worse. And ultimately, these articles that have been published recently, the last day or two, are all saying that Pochettino, his case against the ownership, not against the ownership, to the ownership for Gallagher is becoming more and more pronounced. Before he was I really like him, I'd like to keep him. But, you do your thing, owners and directors. But I think as the pressure's mounted on Pochettino, and as Gallagher has been really, really important, and for example, bailed him out, really, against Crystal Palace away, I reckon he's probably gone. Paul, Lawrence, you gotta do it. You gotta do it. It's all about compromise. Maybe sign a 5+1 deal so you'll just be under 30 still. Give him 120k a week. I don't know. Find a way and get it done. Anyway, we've spoken about this for ages. Let's move on. Just a quick word on Antonio Conte. Of course, this is going around Chelsea media at the moment. Matt Law went and had an interview with Antonio Conte. Of course, he covers both Chelsea and Tottenham, so he's the perfect candidate to interview Antonio Conte. It's a really interesting read, actually. I recommend you go and check it out because he speaks about Tottenham, his time at Tottenham, Chelsea as well, and what it means to win and how the back three system isn't necessarily defensive. And actually, he's working on a new back four system that he wants to implement when he returns to coaching. He speaks about his time at Chelsea as well. Of course, he won the league, and he said after winning the league, we were speaking to Romelu Lukaku and Virgil van Dijk. He wanted to sign both those players at the top and, of course, in defence. Now, you might laugh because, of course, we got Lukaku in the end, and it was a big disaster. But remember, Romelu Lukaku under Antonio Conte was next level. He was a different beast. He scored loads of goals, registered loads of assists, won the MVP, won the title in Italy. I reckon even in the Premier League, Conte could have got a wicked tune out of Lukaku, and of course we all know Virgil van Dijk is a great defender. Actually, Chelsea fumbled Lukaku. He went to United. We ended up with Morata, when in fact we were both linked with the opposites. It's funny how that worked out. But Chelsea did fumble Virgil van Dijk and Alisson. Personally, the big one for me is Alisson. I think Alisson's the second best keeper in the world, annoyingly probably behind Thibaut Courtois. Although Thibaut Courtois got better at Real Madrid. He was great at Chelsea, but he got even better when he left, I think. So yeah, I think Alisson is such a fumble for Chelsea. Virgil van Dijk had a couple of elite years before his injury, but I see him make a lot of mistakes. And of course, we've had good centre-backs in between. But yeah, man, imagine if we got Alisson in goal. That would have been saved us a lot of money as well. I mean, he still cost 60-something million, but would have saved us the 10 million we bought Kepa for. Anyway, it's interesting, of course, loads of Chelsea fans going, we shouldn't have sacked Conte, and we should bring Conte back. Let's have a little moment of, a sobering moment of Conte is hugely destructive. Granted, he fell out with the old ownership and old regime. We're owned by new people now. But he's still the opposite of what the new owners and sporting directors want. Conte is not going to come in, be really constantly communicative with sporting directors and ownership and playing loads of young players and developing players and not getting his, Vidal, 30-year-old or like 37-year-old Vidals and all these players he wants to sign that are really old on high wages. It's just, again, it's the opposite of the project we're doing. So it would never work. But it is interesting to look back and say, damn, imagine if they didn't sort of fall out and we didn't give him Morata and Zappacosta and stuff. Imagine if he got his Van Dijks and his, Lukaku. Conte says Chelsea could have been dominant in the league. Of course, we beat Guardiola when we won the title that season, and there's only 3 managers, I believe, to beat Pep Guardiola team for the league. Mourinho, which of course would have been Real Madrid, Klopp, when one of the titles he managed to get over Pep in the Premier League, and of course Conte, and that was Pep's first season. But still, we were hella dominant. It was Conte's first season, and we were hella dominant. Yeah, anyway, I don't think Conte is the right man for Chelsea, but it is interesting. I always get really interested reading these stories about managers gaining a bit of insight. Usually it's Frank Lampard on a podcast, but I do really like hearing it as well, and it's a great article. Go check it out. Conte speaks about how he always uses Sabutio to do tactics, which, I'm a man in my mid-30s, I remember Sabutio. Alright then, let's talk about Raheem Sterling. Of course, John Cross wrote an article about how Chelsea fans shouldn't be booing Sterling at the moment, and it kind of feeds into my recent empathy towards Sterling. He is a professional. Of course, he had a really sort of difficult first season with Chelsea and the ownership change. Loads of things, Tuchel getting sacked and a terrible pre-season, historically terrible pre-season for Chelsea. It all went a bit wrong, loads of manager changes, but last summer in pre-season, Raheem Sterling put loads and loads of work in. He got loads of individual fitness training, went on these camps, really made sure he did, diet, nutrition and all this kind of stuff. There has been reports actually from inside Chelsea that a lot of the players aren't doing the right fitness stuff and some are overweight. I'm presuming not Raheem Sterling because he's a little bit older, of course, he's just turned 29. He's taking his Chelsea career very, very seriously. Of course, he's happy to be back in London with his family. He's been at Liverpool, at Man City. He's finally back as a youngish man, and I think he's very, very happy, and he's trying very hard, but he's been underperforming. He's been making poor decisions in moments, and I can understand how Pochettino was turning to him for such a long time. He's a senior figure in what is a very juvenile team, and he's very experienced. He scored well over 100 Premier League goals. He's won multiple titles. He was an elite player for England before some I guess there was a fallout with Southgate because he still wasn't called up when he found form again. Truth is, he's not the long-term option for Chelsea. The new Chelsea owners and sporting directors believe youth is incredibly undervalued, and they wanted Mudryk to settle in and do really well and be utilised well. And between Potter, Lampard, and now Pochettino, it's been a tricky task. Though he's been linked to Bayern Munich, it's not a write-off for Mykhailo Mudryk. It's certainly interesting to see what happens, and of course he's got plenty of time. He's on an 8-year deal. Let him settle, let him get comfortable, and let's find the right coaching to make him really effective in the Premier League, which he can be. I know I'm on a tangent here, but remember his debut against Liverpool? People were like, oh God, Mudryk looks awesome for Chelsea. It's almost, Joao Felix's debut, do you remember that, when he looked amazing before he got sent off against Fulham? There's talent there, it can be done, but Chelsea thought they would be leaning on Raheem Sterling for a while. But he's underperformed and he's frustrated. He probably doesn't deserve boos from Chelsea fans because, like I said, he's being professional. He's not reacting. He's trying hard. His fitness is high. I think he's meant to be a really good mentor for the younger players. Everyone likes him. But if you said to me, Jan, if you could transfer Raheem Sterling for 30 million quid now, would you do it? I'd say yeah. And that's no disrespect. I don't dislike Sterling. I'm an England fan, and he had some excellent performances for England. I quite liked the signing. It was Tuchel's priority signing, remember? Thomas Tuchel. This is the guy he wanted. Now, a lot of people have criticised Thomas Tuchel's talent ID in some of the players he wanted. But I quite liked it. I thought, yeah, this is, one of City's better players over the last few years. I think he remains the top scorer under Guardiola. And he wants to come back to London and be that guy for Chelsea. Now, he's very much not that guy, but maybe he could be a really good senior system player. But I think because the system's been failing and it's been more vibes, he's not an elite vibes man. He's not like an Eden Hazard. In fact, if you want to just vibes it, Noni Madueke seems more appropriate than him. And Noni's like 8 years younger than him. Do you know what I mean? The problem with Sterling is, I feel bad firstly because he'll want to stay in London and stay at Chelsea. And he's on 300k a week, by far our highest earner at this point. Who's going to absorb those wages? I said it before, it's going to be like PSG or Saudi, or he takes massively reduced wages and goes to like a Newcastle or something like that. Do you know what I mean? So it's really, really tricky, but I just wanted to speak to you guys about it, see what you think, and get you guys to comment down below. What do you do with Raheem Sterling? Do you just try and convince him to chase the bag? But he's hella ambitious. Look at the last pre-season. He wants to perform at the highest level still. I guess if he picks up form towards the end of the season, bags a few more important goals, maybe he hangs around, but I just don't think he's sellable for Chelsea on those wages and, for any good fee. I mean, he's asset in isolation. If he was on 150k a week or in a bit better form, people would spend money on him. That would be the remaining book value, 30 million or whatever. But still, anyway, I won't go on about it anymore. I just wanted to talk about it. This is football therapy, of course. I'll put it out to you guys. As always, please do comment your thoughts on the stories I've spoken about in today's video down in the comment section. Thank you for liking and subscribing. I need to check if we've hit 180,000 subs, but you could help me do that. If you're yet to subscribe, please do so. Alright friends, see you soon. Peace.